The sun had not yet touched the brown hills of Dabini when Amina woke. The sky still carried the last breath of night, cold and quiet. Her small hut creaked with hunger. Not the wood, but the stomachs inside. 3 children slept beneath patched blankets, their ribs showing more than they should. Amina stood silently, wrapping a thin shawl around her shoulders. It still smelled of Musa, the fisherman whose life the river claimed when the waters rose with anger one stormy night. Since that day, joy had left her like a bird fleeing a burning nest, but hunger waited for no healing. So she lifted her little basket filled with cassava and beans, just enough to sell, just enough to keep death from knocking again. The dusty path twisted under her feet as she walked barefoot toward the old wooden bridge, the shortest way to the next village market. The bridge was a skeleton now, planks missing, nails loose, and ropes frayed like old hair. Every step on it felt like a conversation with danger. She approached the riverbank first, as she always did, kneeling, silent at first thought, then the tears came. "Musa, help me feed them," she whispered shakily. I'm trying every day." Her youngest son, Cato, only 6, rubbed his sleepy eyes as he followed behind. His tiny fingers held onto her dress like hope refusing to let go. "Mama," he whispered as he looked at the calm river with innocent belief. "If we pray harder, will Baba come back?" Amina swallowed her grief so it wouldn't spill out in front of him. "He never left us," she said softly. "We carry him in every breath." For a moment, silence rested between them. The river glimmered with sunrise. Reflections, peaceful, too peaceful, like it was holding something back. Fishermen on the far side stared at the water with fear. Village elders looked at the sky, whispering to each other. A silence too heavy to ignore. Amina stood slowly. Her heart trembled. Something in the air felt different today. A warning, a shift. Still, she moved toward the bridge, because hunger was louder than fear. She placed one foot carefully on a plank. It groaned under her weight. Another step. Another cry from the dying wood beneath her. Cato waited behind, his eyes wide. "Be careful, Mama." She turned to him and smiled, though her heart shook. Just then, a voice cut through the air, remarkably clear. "Do not cross." An old blind man sat near the river, his faded eyes staring into nothing, or perhaps into everything. He stood, leaning on his rough stick, pointing toward the fragile bridge. "The river hears a mother's tears today," he said. "The spirits are listening." His voice echoed, chilled the air. Even the birds paused. Jemaine froze. "Abba," she whispered respectfully, "I must reach the market. My children are starving." The old man took a slow breath. The river gives and the river takes. And today, it is hungry again. Amina looked at the bridge, her enemy, her only chance. The wind moaned through its broken planks like a warning song. She stepped back to the bank, clutching her basket to her chest. "What should I do?" she asked desperately. The blind man turned, his cloudy eyes toward the sky. "You came here with tears," he said. "But tears are not for weakness. Tears are a prayer the spirits cannot ignore." Amina didn't understand, yet she listened. "Your pain speaks louder than your voice," he continued. "And sometimes the spirits move when a mother's heart is breaking." Cato stood beside her quietly, watching the man with trust. Suddenly, a loud cracking noise burst through the stillness. Crack! The middle of the bridge split and a large chunk crashed into the river's mouth, swallowed like a sacrifice. The water roared and circled the debris, as if claiming its victory. Amina gasped, the very spot she was about to step onto. She would have fallen. She would have left her children orphans twice. Her knees gave way. She fell into the mud beside Cato and sobbed into his small shoulder. The old man walked closer. Soft steps. A voice like a grandfather's lullaby. "You think you walk alone?" He said, "No, child. The spirits of this land walk with a mother who refuses to give up." The villagers rushed over after witnessing the collapse. They looked at Amina, a mother who faced death every day so her children could live. They picked up wood, rope, tools. One man said firmly, "If she can face this bridge every morning, we can fix it today." Another nodded. Her tears saved her. Let our hands save her children. Together they began rebuilding the bridge, plank by plank. They worked all morning as the river watched silently. Cato helped too, carrying nails with his tiny hands like gifts to hope. Amina watched in disbelief. Her tears brought help. Her prayers were heard. When the bridge finally stood new and strong, the villagers stepped aside and gestured toward her. "Cross now," they said, and returned with a smile. Amina walked across carefully, feeling the solid wood beneath her feet. Her heart soared. This was more than a bridge. It was a promise. On the other side, she turned back toward the old man. "How did you know?" she asked. The blind man smiled through his beard. "When pain becomes prayer," he whispered, "faith begins to move the world." Amina bowed her head, her eyes filled with reverence. She felt Musa in the wind. She felt strength in her spine. She felt hope, alive again. And as she continued her journey to the market, she held one truth close. A mother's tears can build the strongest bridge, even when the road is broken. Thunder split the sky like a broken heart. In the village of Nambini, every house trembled as dark clouds devoured the daylight. The warm sun that had kissed the fields during the morning was gone. In its place stood a monster of wind, rain, and roaring skies. Amina stood outside the small market stall with her children by her side. Cato, only 6, and his older sister Nia. She felt the first drops of rain touch her skin like warnings from the heavens. "We need to go home," she whispered, gripping their small hands tightly. Within moments, the peaceful afternoon turned into chaos. Villagers sprinted through the storm, clutching their baskets and goats. Mothers screamed their children's names. Windows banged, doors slammed, and the wind howled like a hungry spirit seeking revenge. Amina rushed forward, her shawl whipping wildly against her face. The path home twisted around the river, and today the river was angry enough to swallow whatever lay in its way. "Mama, I'm scared," Nia cried, wiping rain from her eyes. "So am I," Amina breathed. "But we must be brave for Baba." Lightning struck the hills, shaking the earth under their feet. Water streamed down the slopes, flooding the path, splitting the mud. Every step felt like a battle against nature itself. When they reached the familiar bend that looked over the river, Amina froze. The river, swollen like a giant awakened, surged and thrashed against its banks. Trees bent low like they wished to hide from its fury, and the only way across was the same broken bridge where her tears had fallen that morning. "No," Amina whispered, her heart twisting in fear. The bridge, her nightmare, now stood between life and death. Abba. Planks snapped as thunder boomed again. Rain poured so hard that even breath felt heavy. There was no time to turn back. The rising water behind them chased like a predator. Amina held her children close. "Stay near me. Do not let go." They stepped onto the creaking wood. Cato's feet slipped almost instantly. Amina gasped, tightening her grip. The bridge swayed wildly as the wind shoved them from every side. Each plank complained under their weight, creaking like bones ready to break. From the village side, distant voices cried out, "Amina, hurry! Move! The river is taking the bridge." She wanted to run, but fear glued her feet. Cato stumbled. Again, this time worse. His little hand slipped from her fingers. He screamed as his body tilted toward the roaring river below. Double quotes. No. KO. Amina lunged, barely catching his wrist. He dangled over death, his small legs kicking helplessly. Pain shot through her arms as she fought to pull him up. Her knees slammed onto the soaked wood. She felt splinters tearing into her skin. The river roared louder, mocking her weakness. Thunder crashed again. Her children cried. Her heart shattered. Mama! Nia screamed, clinging tight. Villagers on the far side panicked, but none dared step onto the bridge. Everyone knew. One wrong move and the river would claim all three. Amina struggled, shaking, her voice cracking through sobs. Musa! Help! Please. And then, a shout cut through the storm. Amina! Hold on! A young man pushed past the crowd. Tall, strong, determined. Baraka, a boy once lost and starving, whom Amina had once fed when he had nothing. You helped me. Now it is my turn. He yelled above the wind. The river spit droplets into his face like bullets, but fear could not stop him. He ran onto the bridge, the wood groaning and shaking under his weight. Amina, give me Kato, he cried. Amina's fingers slipped. Kato screamed in a breath of fate. Baraka dove and caught Kato's shoulder. I've got you. He shouted. He pulled the terrified child onto safer planks. Rain drenched them all, but Baraka didn't stop. He rushed back toward Nia, grabbing her arm firmly and guiding her toward the village side. The wind grew harsher. The bridge jerked violently. Nails popped from their holes. Baraka returned one final time for Amina. She was frozen, trembling. Her weight against the bridge made every corner of it cry out in warning. Baraka! She choked, unable to move. He kneeled in front of her, placing his hand over hers. Mama Amina, he said softly, even as the storm tried to silence him. You once saved a boy with nothing. Today that boy saves the woman who gave him hope. With steady strength, he lifted her up. Together they stepped forward slowly, one plank at a time. The river's rage below did not ease, but somehow they felt protection guiding every footstep. When they finally reached solid ground, the villagers rushed forward, wrapping blankets around the shivering children. Amina collapsed into Baraka's arms, tears pouring harder than the rain. Musa, she whispered brokenly, I thought we would join you today. Baraka shook his head gently. Not today. Not while we are here to protect each other. And then, as suddenly as it had come, the storm changed. The wind fell quiet, like a beast chained by unseen hands. Thunder faded into distant grumbles. Raindrops stopped attacking the earth, falling softly instead. The river sank, faster than nature should. Everyone stared in disbelief. The old blind man from the riverbank stood nearby, staff raised toward the sky. His voice carried through the silence. The spirits have seen a mother's courage, he declared, and they calmed the river in honor of her tears. Amina looked up, and something in her heart unchained. The fear that had gripped her for months loosened. The bridge no longer looked like death. It looked like proof that she was not alone. She pulled Kato and Nia close to her chest and kissed their wet foreheads. We survived, Nia whispered, smiling faintly. Yes, Amina breathed, stroking their cheeks. Because kindness returns, like rain that falls back to the earth that once fed the clouds. Baraka stepped forward, offering a humble nod. He didn't seek praise. He simply said, You helped me when I had no one. Today, I repay just a piece of that love. Amina smiled. Through her tears, feeling strength pulse through her again. In that moment, the villagers saw a truth shining brighter than lightning. No storm, not even the cruelest, could break a heart built on kindness. Night fell over Tabini like a velvet blanket, soft yet heavy with unspoken memories. The storm that raged earlier had finally surrendered, leaving only the cool breath of night to kiss the earth. The river, once a violent monster seeking to swallow lives, now glimmered calm and gentle, as though it too was catching its breath. Amina sat outside her humble hut with a small fire crackling before her. Flames danced like spirits, trying to bring warmth back into the world. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to steady her heartbeat. The wooden bridge still haunted her mind, the creaking planks, Cato slipping, her hands trembling, the scream swallowed by roaring winds. She kept replaying it all in silent terror, but inside the hut, her children finally slept without fear for the first time in many nights. Little Nia rested against Cato's shoulder, both wrapped beneath the patch-stitched blanket that once belonged to Musa. Their peaceful breaths were like tiny gifts from the heavens. Amina gazed up at the moon. It floated high, silver and proud, reflected perfectly on the river's smooth surface. It was strange how the same water that tried to devour them now looked so gentle, so holy. She wiped a tear from her cheek. "Musa, I wish you could see them," she whispered. Her voice trembled. Her heart ached. But somewhere inside, a seed of hope pulse planted by kindness returning, by a storm that surrendered too suddenly to be only nature. The rustle of grass broke the silence. Tap, tap. A staff struck the earth slowly, rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat calling her name. Amina turned. From the shadows emerged the blind old man she had seen beside the river before. His faded eyes looked like pearls washed by time. His gray beard swayed softly in the night breeze. "Widow Amina," he called gently. Her spine stiffened. "How do you know my name?" The old man smiled, lifting his face toward the night sky. "I know the names of those who suffer with dignity," he replied, every word as calm as flowing water. His presence brought a strange comfort, like Moses walking from a miracle. He drew closer, warming his hands near her fire. "You faced the raging river today," he said. "Your tears were stronger than the storm." Amina lowered her eyes. "I feared the river would take everything from me again." "The river cannot take what belongs to destiny," he said. Wind swirled softly, lifting ashes into the star-filled air. "What do you mean?" Amina asked, voice barely above a breath. Musa did not drown. Amina's heart slammed against her ribs. She clutched her shawl. "No, do not give me false hope," she pleaded. "Hope is never false." The man replied. He raised his staff, pointing toward the moon's reflection dancing on the calm waves. "Your husband's soul was taken to protect you. He crossed into the realm where spirits guard those they love most. That is why you still breathe. That is why your children still laugh." Tears filled Amina's eyes. She pressed her trembling hands over her chest. "Musa," she whispered, broken and whole at the same time. The blind man stepped closer. "Tonight, he spoke to me," Amina gasped. Her knees touched the earth, surrendering to awe. "He said the bridge must be rebuilt," the man continued. "He said your blessing lies on the other side. But only when faith walks first." She struggled to speak. "Why me? I'm just a poor widow with nothing left to give." He shook his head slowly. "Those who have nothing but love have more than enough to move mountains." From within the folds of his cloak, he drew something small, placing it gently into her palm. The object felt cold like riverstone, like metal, like memory. Amina opened her hand. It was a tiny fish carved from smooth stone, shining faintly in the moonlight. "Musa sent this," the old man whispered. "It is a sign of provision." Warmth spread through her fingers as though Musa's own hand held hers again. A glow radiated softly from the stone blue and gold, like a hidden sun trapped inside. The villagers emerged slowly from their homes, drawn by the supernatural light. Their shadows stretched long on the ground as they formed a circle around Amina and the old man. Children rubbed sleepy eyes. Fathers stood still as trees. Mothers held their breath. "What is happening?" Someone murmured. "The spirits are here," said another voice. A village elder stepped closer, eyes wide. "This is a miracle." "The river chooses her," whispered a woman. But Amina did not hear their words. Her gaze stayed fixed on the glowing fish. Tears streamed down her face, not from sorrow, but from a love so strong it could not stay inside her heart that suddenly dash crack. The stone split open in her hand. A hush fell over everyone. A soft gasp rippled through the gathering. Inside the broken fish was gold. Not a coin, not jewelry, but pure golden dust shimmering like sunlight squeezed into tiny grains. It sparkled in Amina's palm, lighting the entire night. Voices rose in awe. "It is a sign, a blessing. The spirits honor her family." Amina stared in disbelief. The dust swirled into the air, forming the faint silhouette of a man, broad shoulders, familiar stance. Head bowed gently, Musadad. His shape glowed above the river, smiling down at his beloved. His voice came like a breeze through leaves. "Live. The river has not taken me. I walk beside you." Amina reached upward, fingers stretching toward the light. "I miss you." Her voice cracked. "You will join me in the distant future," the whisper replied. "But now, rebuild. Keep hope alive. Our children must cross that bridge into tomorrow." Then, the golden figure dissolved into the night, falling like stardust onto the river's peaceful surface. Amina bowed her head, overwhelmed. But this time, her tears were not heavy. They glowed with faith. Villagers knelt. Some wept openly. Others prayed. The blind man placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "The greatest miracles are born from the deepest wounds," he said. Amina stood slowly, shoulders no longer bent by burden but lifted by purpose. She pressed the open stone to her heart. "Thank you," she whispered to the river, to the sky. To love that refused to die. The fire crackled brighter. The river hummed softly. The stars bowed their light on Ntabeni. And inside one widow's chest, a bridge began to rebuild itself. Morning rose soft and gentle over the village of Nabeni. For the first time in many days, the sun came out without fear. Dew clung to the grass like tiny beads of hope. Birds traced wide circles in the clear sky, singing a victory that only nature truly understood. Amina stood near the riverbank, holding her children close. Where yesterday there had been chaos, anger, and roaring waters, now there was calm. The river flowed quietly, like a wild creature finally tamed. She took a deep breath. The air tasted like a promise, one she never dared to believe in before. Villagers gathered around with wood, ropes, and tools. Men and women worked side by side. They didn't wait for elders to decide. They didn't wait for fear to return. They simply knew what had to be done. The bridge that had once threatened death would now become a path to life. Baraka lifted a heavy plank onto his shoulder. Sweat dripped from his forehead, but he smiled at Amina. "Your husband watches over us," he said. His voice was steady, full of respect and warmth. Amina placed a trembling hand over her heart. "Musa was always brave," she whispered. "He would be proud of you all." Baraka nodded, his eyes soft with admiration. He remembered the day Amina fed him when he was nothing but a hungry, forgotten child wandering the streets. Today, he returned that kindness by rebuilding a future for her family. The blind old man, the one who had appeared with warnings and miracles, stood by the river with his staff. His empty eyes faced the sky as though he could see more than anyone else. His voice rose above the sound of hammers and saws. "Let love guide the hands that build," he declared. and let courage shape every step taken here. The villagers murmured Amen or bowed their heads. Even those who once doubted Amina now stood proudly by her side. By noon, the new bridge stood complete. The sunlight hit the strong wooden surface, making it shine like a path carved by heaven itself. Children clapped. Elders wiped tears. Fear was gone, replaced by faith. Amina felt Cato tug her hand. "Mama, can we cross it now?" he asked, eyes bright with excitement. She looked at her daughter Nia, who nodded eagerly. "We're safe now, Mama," she said with a giggle that Amina had missed for too long. The blind man stepped toward Amina and extended his staff, pointing toward the bridge. "You must be the first to cross," he said. Musa left blessings for those who walk with courage. Her fingers tightened around the glowing fish-shaped stone in her palm, the last gift from her husband's spirit. She felt warmth spreading from it into her chest. It was not just magic. It was love. Alive. The villagers fell silent as Amina placed her first foot onto the bridge. The planks were firm. The river hummed below as though cheering her on. Every step felt like she was rewriting her destiny. Halfway across, the wind brushed her cheeks gently, like Musa's hands guiding her. She paused, tears filling her eyes. But these were tears of triumph. Then she reached the other side. The crowd erupted in cheers. Cato jumped up and down. Nia hugged her tightly. Baraka lifted his fist to the sky. A miracle has crossed the river today. Laughter and celebration flowed like the water below. The villagers shared food and stories. Children played. Elders sang ancient songs. Amina passed around bowls of steaming cassava and beans, no longer counted, no longer rationed. Her home had food enough for everyone tonight. For once, hunger did not win. Later, as the sun set behind the hills, Amina searched for the blind old man to thank him. But he was gone. Only his staff remained near the riverbank. Carved deeply into the wood were the words, "Musa's love guided me." Amina's breath trembled. She pressed the glowing stone to her heart and whispered, "Thank you, my beloved. You kept your promise." The river shimmered under the sunset, and for a moment, she thought she saw her husband's reflection smiling back at her, proud, peaceful, eternal. That night, children in Tabini slept with full stomachs and fuller hearts. The village that once feared the river now honored it as a giver of life. The bridge, rebuilt through love, courage, and unity, stood as a symbol of hope for generations to come. Amina kissed her children gently as they drifted to sleep. "You are safe," she whispered, "and tomorrow will be even brighter." She stepped outside and gazed at the stars. A soft wind wrapped around her like a familiar embrace. She no longer cried for Musa, she smiled for him, for she finally understood. Love never dies. It simply changes its way of protecting us. And where tears once fell, a miracle now stood.